Continuing on, after a pause of a day or two or three or whatever it was, last I was recounting essentially the way the Holy Spirit is speaking in a way. I'm probably a little overly dramatizing it, but Yahuah Al Elyon is speaking to those that are righteous and those that are spiritual. They can hear Yahuah Al Elyon and they're saying, "Get out, get out, get out." And of course, the fantasy simulation of the Truman Show and the Matrix and other movies like that of reality for the billions that have been created by the global cabal, the fuzzy, warm, good-feeling, oppressive slavery. El Elyon is telling those that have an ear, as Yeshua said, he that hath an ear, let him hear. Trying to think of various topics, thinking of all the different spiritual things that I've been shown. We'll talk more about Revelation 18 in the context that the daughter of Babylon, the United States, has become a cage and a hold of every evil and unclean spirit and hateful bird. You see the birds, it's the Olam reality, because Shaddai favors the mammalian reality. So where you see bird, but it's kind of interesting though, the eagle seraph, which is a bird, is the power being of the Shaddai reality. So we have to distinguish which birds we're talking about here. And obviously later on, when the gamma ray burst has taken place, somewhere between 500 million and a billion, 2 billion are dead as a result of the gamma ray burst. And this is the citation of the book of Revelation that says, "Come to the supper of the great God," because the gamma ray radiation is so powerful, it kills everything. The bodies won't rot because all the bacteria and everything that would normally make a body break down are all dead too. So the bird's going to have this great big feast on these hundreds of millions, billions of dead corpses. Another topic I wanted to talk about that's spiritual is the nature of this cage and this hold and the dramatically increasing number of individuals that I encounter on a daily basis that are possessed. And I had known for quite some time that spirits, either based on the scriptures or my interactions and coming to contact with individuals on a daily basis, or at least a weekly and monthly basis, where persons are, they house more than one spirit. They're a home to more than one spirit. And they're possessed. I don't know what else to call it. That many, many persons are possessed. Now, what I didn't know is that Olam has been keeping the spirits of the Golden Age men alive by transplanting the spirits of the Golden Age men into animals and mammals and human beings to keep them from dematerializing. And this was something I didn't know until recently as well, that spirits, these low-level spirits, can die. They have to have a host, an energy. These spirits are trapped within the realm of energy because they are energy. They are the spirit of an energy-only being. So they're trapped within this dimension, within this reality, even on the earth here. And another interesting thing about this, which Daniel has told me for some time now, but it was brought up recently to me, and of course I told you in the previous two recordings, on the same day, part 1, part 2, that, and I've known this for a couple of years now because Daniel talks to me about it, that the surface of the earth is a zone of reduced entropy. And when you leave the surface of the earth, entropy dramatically increases. And this has to do with the surface of the earth being in close proximity to the event horizon, fairly close, and all by the the design of the Creator, that entropy dramatically increases as you leave the surface of the earth without super advanced technology, which currently is not available. That technology does exist, and even Olam has the ability to somehow apparently make use of that technology. But then, of course, there's probably various versions and flavors of entropy reduction technologies that may reduce or stop entropy altogether. Two things that I want to talk about in relation to that are radioactive carbon and telomere degradation, which I had talked about. There were 3 events that have stripped atmosphere away from the Earth. The Younger Dryas event, when the rocket left, I assume, tore away a lot of the atmosphere. And allows more cosmic radiation and solar radiation to reach the Earth, which then increases the amount of radioactive carbon. And because we are carbon-based life, we're eating food that's radioactive, has radioactive carbon in it. And that's one of the things that throughout our lives, as we eat more and more of this radioactive carbon, it dramatically reduces our life expectancies. And then the Noahic flood, 4,400 years ago, that allowed more of the sun to reach the surface of the earth. Apparently, that was the first time. Up until then, the actual bright sunshine did not reach the surface of the earth because a thing such as a rainbow, which can only be accomplished through thin atmosphere that allows more or less direct sunshine to go through water droplets and through the prismatic effect create a rainbow. The secret, and then it was George Gordon, persons that are not spiritual, they don't realize that physics and spirituality have the same source. I believe it's in the book of Job, so-called Job. There's the hypothetical question, by what way is the light parted? That's a rhetorical physics question of prismatic splitting of light described in the scriptures. Then, after the Noahic flood, the next life expectancy shortening event was the Tower of Babel, and whatever was done there further damaged the Earth's atmosphere. Telomere cap degradation. It's a topic they know about it. In fact, I was watching a mainstream news broadcast, which I don't normally do. I'm usually in the presence of other individuals who are television watchers, and something like 9 a.m. in the morning, and these were just various persons talking on mainstream television, one of the major networks, and they mentioned telomere degradation. They didn't say the word cap, but they did say telomere degradation. And of course, that caught my attention, because how many people do you hear talk about telomere caps? And as cells divide, the telomere caps in the DNA get a little bit shorter, and then they reach a point where they can't get any shorter, and there's a name for this type of cell that cannot divide any further, and that's one of the reasons why our earthly bodies pass away, is because the cells are unable to split. They're unable to divide because they've reached the limit of their telomere caps. This matter of spirits needing hosts is one that I kind of knew of, but that the fact that if they do not have a host, they will dematerialize. They lose their structure, and kind of gives. I didn't think that spirits could die of their own accord. I thought that they had to be destroyed, which those beings that have the power over creation. Any arca being that the Council of the Elves has sufficient power over creation to manage spirits and either destroy them, whatever, cast them into the lake of fire. And it's this aspect of beings that have the ability to cross dimensions, including chaos. There's an aspect of chaos. I believe that's, and I'll have to talk with Daniel about this. So this is a kind of a little speculative on my part. Tartarus. There are beings that were here in this dimension of reality, and we see this discussion in the book of Revelation with the bottomless pit, where beings are taken and they're put into this bottomless pit, which is they're taken across the event horizon. Now, in our energy form, we can't cross the event horizon, but as an arca being, beings that have arca within them do have the ability to cross dimensional boundaries, because they have the authority reality within them. And this is something that Daniel has told me about, although not to an extremely great extent, because we're learning it much as you might be learning it from me. This is information that was presumably well known by the ancients, but as a result of the destroyers of knowledge coming and burning down libraries and then dumbing down the masses do not have knowledge of how the dimensions and the nexuses and spirits and beings and realities all interact and work with each other, and how they, their source. And it was a little bit of a surprise to me when Daniel told me that the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit in Olam are not creator beings. They are created beings themselves. They have the ability to create and do things, but they themselves are created. Because they all have, and because I was looking at the Hexakiadekianity and I noticed the way we have the chart arranged, all 8, of course, in this older arrangement, which is up on the internet. If you go look on 4plebs, numeral 4, PLEBS, which is an archive site for some of the boards on 4chan, in this particular case, poll /POL/, which stands for politically incorrect. I've been posting there for, I don't know, 2 or 3 years. And the easy way to find my posts without me even having to supply you any links is because I talk about the Arca reality, ARCHA, Arca. In the Greek, it's called Arche. I guess they changed the last A to an E. I'll have to look and see in the Greek, but that's the word, the declarations, the decrees, the judgments are all a part of the Arca reality. So the way our older chart, which I have posted repeatedly up on 4chan, has the Arca beings in the top 2 rows. Then the 3rd row down is the power beings, the seraphs, and then the bottommost is chaos, angels, energy, ethereal, Genesis 2:7 man, and then Genesis 1:27 man, and demons, energy only spirits. And as I was looking at this chart recently, I noticed that the 2 rightmost columns all have energy as a part of their reality. And so now as I'm meditating on this, I'm thinking that probably, is it possible, I've got to go back and look at the chart, is the left 2 most heaven only, and are the bottom 2 most, they all have eternal? No. I don't know, but it was an aspect of the chart I hadn't noticed before. Again, this is all has to do with the mechanics of creation. I'm trying to think of some of the other topics that Daniel has spoken to me about that I haven't told you about. There are many things that, and I have to actually go back through my dream logs. And so I've told you about some of the dreams about paradise, trying to think of some of the dreams that I've had about the power reality. I haven't had too many dreams about the power reality. Well, actually I have, but most of those were on the unguided tour. They put a shackle on me in a way, but I was not completely shackled. One hand was shackled, but the other one was, I like had to hold it shut. It would fall open, and so here I am, but I had to keep this thing shut of my own volition, and they prayed for me. The beings, a whole bunch of them, were praying for me in this dream that I had, where I had been on this unguided tour of the power reality, and they brought me back and said, okay, your guided tour is open, and they shackled me. And El Elyon, the spirit reality, shackled me and said, no, but in a way, the shackle was, if you've ever been handcuffed to somebody else. So I'm pray that I'm handcuffed to the El Elyon reality, which is the one that is with me, that takes me on this tour. I was also reviewing the 2 prior recordings to see if I had made any mistakes, any substantial mistakes or errors or corrections or things to add. And I can't think of any, but I might review it some more, or even other previous recordings. Something that's not clear to me was how long ago the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit reality have abandoned America. In the last few months, there has been a marked deterioration. I see it up on 4chan. I frequent more than one board there. There's about 80 or 100 boards on 4chan. But I frequent random as well. And I see that people that are diligent to post will post on both random and poll, as well as banter, and maybe int. Is it int? I don't frequent all the boards. I don't have enough time for it. I do more reading than I do posting. A general thread, the general things that I'm seeing are people saying they can feel it. They know something terrible is happening. They don't know what. But with this aspect of either their eyes or their hearts, or a little bit of both, or maybe there's a very few of them that are spiritual, they know something incredibly bad is happening. Well, what that is the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, the Shaddai, Ehim, Elyon realities, have completely abandoned the Americas, if not really the entire planet in a way. The entire planet, more or less, has been handed over to Olam, to allow Olam to just kill and destroy and do whatever Olam wants to do. And what the Shaddai, Ehim, Elyon reality has done is sent the 4 horses. And the red horse of war and the green, the pale horse of death and hell, have gone to the south and are present at Levant and maybe elsewhere, but certainly at Levant, places like Afghanistan. And you're not going to see anything good come out of that part of the world. Now, conversely, Yahuah's righteous Arca, the black horse of Arca and the white horse of ethereal power, are present in the area of Poland. And I'm seeing Orban. I'd kind of sort of written him off because he was working with the eugenicists, but overall Orban is promoting things that are more pure than most other places. So Hungary is that general area, and actually Czechoslovakia has been brought to my attention. I've not run it by Daniel yet, but Czechoslovakia is in that area. I suppose And I'm watching the war with Russia, the proxy war with Russia against the cabal in Ukraine, the Synagogue of Satan. And Russia, I'm assuming this morning I had 2 dreams with Russian communications in them. I haven't had the chance to get with Daniel yet to see what these 2 dreams mean, if they are in fact about Russia. I haven't had a dream about Russia in probably 12 to 18 months. The last dream that I can clearly remember about Russia was back at the time when we were being supplied with information about Delta Capricorni and the radiation, the levels of radiation that are going to be in various places. Russia was in that dream. So I do watch, and of course the whole world is watching the war in Ukraine. Of course, persons are asking, why the war in Ukraine? Why the war in Ukraine? Well, if you're not spiritual, you won't get it. The cabal wants in Ukraine because they want access to the ancient high technology that's there in the rocket sites and bases and civilizations that were there 66 million years ago that were destroyed as part of the KT event. The cabal has been diligently going around the world for decades now, gathering up technology and information from anywhere and everywhere all over the face of the earth to develop their rocket programs in an attempt to leave the surface of the earth. And as per the word of Yahuah, their programs will not succeed. The word of Yahuah unto them is that their attempts to leave this planet are going to be a complete failure. And I had a very, very specific dream that addressed that topic only. It was very interesting because there were no rockets in the dream. It was interesting, but again, because of the gift of knowing and interpretation. It's why the gift of the knower is just as important as the gift of the seer. They're like, in fact, Daniel was telling me they're kind of, it's a splitting that if these 2 abilities were combined into the same individual, they would be an incredible individual. And so what Yahuah has done is split an ability and placed half of it in 2 individuals, where it's correlative, where one individual is the seer, and the word seer in the English appears in the scriptures 8 times. I should do a Hebrew check on that. And then there's the knower, the individual that has the gift of knowing. And Daniel, the book of Daniel obviously was a knower. There are other knowers throughout the scriptures, like the individual who was present when Jerubbaal, Gideon, had crept up on the camp of the Midianites, of Midian, as he was instructed by one of the Els, or archangels, whoever it was that came to talk to him. And one said, I had a dream, that a barley cake tumbled into the camp, struck the tent. The tent fell headlong. This is the dark similitude. This individual was a seer. They saw into the spiritual realms, and they saw a future event coming, but it was the dark similitude. So they were like a barley cake and hitting a tent, and it fell over, and that meant nothing to them, in the same way that I've had these types of things coming to me now for at least 40 years. And in many respects, they meant nothing to me in the same way. I would just like, oh, wow, that's interesting, whatever, and I'd let it go in one ear and out the other. But as time went by and I began to read more of the scriptures and meditate and ponder on these things, and actually went and studied dreams, a dream in the scriptures, I'd made a mistake. I didn't use the asterisk that I so often use. I just put the word dream in. I did put in dream asterisk, which would have brought up dreamed and dreameth and dreamer, which I did later. And had I done that in my earlier studies 30 years ago, 25 to 30 years ago, but I suppose it was part of my fate that it was not for me to find out everything about dreams and dreamers and dreameth and dreamed until later. because then it became very apparent to me that Yahuah was speaking to me. And then, of course, I had need of the knower gift. And where are the knowers? And, of course, many of the seers, they don't talk to anybody because the masses are dead or energy-only beings. They're either energy-only beings, which are incapable of being spiritual by nature of their design. They are not only incapable of being spiritual, but they're also defective on top of that. Their manufacture, their creation of their reality is defective because of Sophia making use of apparently an unauthorized river of life somehow in some way. Daniel had told me about this when we first saw the Syzygies. He told me that, but now the realities have come to me and shown me firsthand now. Whereas Daniel had done it in the knowing and told me that Sophia is leaky, the spirit of wisdom is leaky, and everything she makes has defects as a result, is defective because of her leaky nature. But now they have come to me directly. I don't know if it was a dream or a vision. I think that was a dream. It was this rapid sequence of dreams. And they're, of course, continuing to speak to me, really, as long as conditions are favorable for me, really, they speak to me every day. Every day. I hear from the L's, the I am, the breath, particularly, has been very poignant lately, which was one that I had, actually, I don't know if I had told you this. As I had meditated on the Word, the Scriptures, and the Hexkiadekianity, and all the different beings, as I had said earlier, I would look at the chart and I say, well, I've never seen the Archangel Yahuah, and I've never, I haven't seen this seraph, and I haven't seen that seraph, and I haven't seen this L or whatever. Or if I had, it wasn't that L was not identified to me. I didn't know who it was that was speaking to me or interacting with me. But there were several. I would look at the chart and go, I remember very specifically having never interacted with the Archangel Yahuah, and very rarely with the eagle seraph and the lion seraph and the man seraph. But now, in the intervening couple years, as I had desired to interact with them, or at least to see them and to know that they exist, I have seen them all. And then I found out about the Morai, the tenders of the string, and that they are not the same as the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. They are those realities. But these are the creator beings. They're not the same as Shaddai, Ehim, and Elyon, which are created beings. So when it became distinguished to me that there is a difference between the I am, the breath, and the Word, then I began to meditate upon those beings, particularly the breath. And the first, and it was a movie, I should know it. It's used quite often. It's a scene from a Hollywood movie where there's an individual, as a military trial, probably a court-martial, Article 15 type hearing of some kind or another, some type of military tribunal taking place. And this one individual says to another, I want the truth. And the other individual responds, you can't handle the truth. So I had about 2 years ago or 3 years ago, sometime at least 18 months ago, I can tell you the exact date, it's in my dream log, I had begun to meditate upon the breath reality, the one that you cannot look upon. And I had a dream where I was crouched down in a like a concrete tunnel, like sort of like a sewer, but it wasn't a sewer. But it might be a very small passageway to an underground bunker or something like that. It was a small concrete. It was a very small space. It was only 3 or 4 feet high, and I was crouched down against this wall sitting. There was light there, but I'd have to revisit my dream log, but I remember the overall context, but it's sometimes helpful to tell you exactly what I heard, the exact words. But I was crouched down there, kind of like hiding, sort of, or being hidden, depends on, it's really a matter of perspective, really. And where did I get that from? Hellsing Ultimate. Hellsing Ultimate. Give that beep a cannon. Beep, love cannons. Oh, they're struggling in the realm of energy. No big deal. But they would make these jokes amongst themselves. Oh, it's really a matter of perspective, really. And I told Daniel, I didn't really tell him about Hellsing Ultimate, but I did tell him about this discussion of, well, it's really a matter of perspective. And Daniel has very much agreed and has picked up on that and this recurring topic of, where are you? Or in the words of, he published the Anti-Shyster. What was his name? He's one of the secular, pretty much secular educators. He's from Texas. Well, his name comes to me, I remember. But anyway, he published a magazine called the Anti-Shyster. And he also brought forth some information about trusts. And he had a saying, know your place. Where are you? Are you within or in? Even that word in is very important. What is the legal definition, the legal meaning of the word in? These United States or the United States? Where are you? Well, anyway, getting back onto this spiritual thing, I was crouched down in this little concrete tunnel, and someone said, you can't handle it. You can't handle it. It was something like that. You can't handle it. And of course, when I told Daniel the dream, he was, because these are realities that are even new for him, that these would be the very first time that he has encountered these realities himself, because it's the first time I've encountered these realities, and because he enters with me into the communication with me, then he encounters it for the first time also. Now, that's not to say that he hasn't encountered other realities of his independently of me, but quite often for us, the information is new to both of us at the same time. Although he will know, he'll have a knowing of it. And sometimes there are instances even now starting to happen, and it pushes him into more education, and myself going to look at more and inquiring more, and things that he doesn't even know what it is. I see it. It's a thing. We know it's coming from the other dimensions and realities. We have no clue what it is. We don't know. And so we have to ask, what is this that you showed us? Or, we don't understand. We're dum-dums. He said, yeah, they sent us 1,000 data points, and we got 3 of them. He said that repeatedly in the last 6 months or a year or so, about the last 3 to 6 months. They have been communicating to mankind and or to myself and him. They might have said 1,000 things to us, and we got 3 of them. It's kind of sobering. So what was this? It said, you can't handle it. It was that breath reality. This was when I had asked to see the breath reality, which of course is, you can't see the breath reality. If you do, you die. And he said they were being merciful to you. They didn't show themselves to you, because she didn't show herself to you. You were tucked into this spot. They talked to you instead, but they're not going to show them. She's not going to show herself to you because it would kill you. So that was her response, was, okay, you wanted to see me. You wanted to communicate with me. You can't handle that. But she did come to me. She did communicate with me. It wasn't just like, well, silence. No, they'll speak, but no, you can't look. So it's like that. He that hath an ear, let him hear. So there was that aspect where I had been in this little I was crouched down in this little square concrete tunnel. But really what it was just like Moses. He had been tucked into this cleft, and then the breath reality had passed before him when he was arguing with the Els. And the Els had pretty much said of the children of Israel, and this was one of the failures of the 9 failures, the various failures of mankind in the last 6 or so thousand years, or 13,000 years. There have been 9 failures of mankind spiritually. These are the spiritual ones. The energy only types, they're not even in the equation. They're supposed to get purged, and there have been purges. But now, because the Shaddai reality imparted the ethereal reality into this character that we know as Io, he's willing to impart it into anyone else. So the opportunity now is anyone. So many of the beings, whether they be energy-only beings, which initially had no opportunity whatever, no plan of salvation, no plan of redemption, they were all considered as obsolete and are to be destroyed. That was the plan up until 2,000 years ago, when the wedding, I don't know if it was 2,000 years ago or it's just recently, because I don't know the context of time. But it's available now. I can tell you now. I don't know how far back the availability goes, but that's not really relevant. What's relevant is the now. Kind of like in the cliche of the papists. It's not in the sweet by and by. It's in the dirty, rotten here and now. And that's true to a little bit of an extent, but it's not entirely true either, because these are eternal beings with the arc of reality in them. And they are eternal. Time is not. They move through time like we walk from one place to another. They can walk through time the way we walk through our dimension. They can walk through time. So they don't have the same perspective of time that we do, because we're limited. We're in our energy form. We're limited within time, but our spirits are not. Anyway. So that's, as of now, the free spiritual upgrade is available. The El Elyon, the spirit reality, the breath reality, is giving all beings, and that's my purpose as the Chet, the door, is to tell the energy beings of Earth, because I'm an energy ethereal being, I'm spiritual, so I can interact with the celestials in the same way that I interact with all the terrestrials. I interact with all the celestials. And I'm here to tell any and all terrestrials who have no clue what I'm talking about that you can have what I have. It's let's make a deal, kind of like that old TV show Monty Hall. Let's make a deal. Let's make a deal. And the eternal creators, not the created beings of Shaddai, Ehim, Elyon, and Olam, but